imagine you go to a trade show, you have a great conversation with somebody working at the booth, and then you get a generic message afterwards. That's not a great experience.
Welcome to the Marketing Magnified podcast. I'm Mary Jo, your host from Stream Creative, and today I'm joined by my colleague, Janice Dombrowski, and we're going to talk about how content and thought leadership opportunities come from event marketing. Welcome to the show, Janice.
Hi, MJ. Happy to be here.
Awesome. This podcast series is about event marketing, and today we're going to focus on post-event content and momentum to keep the conversation going. Because as you and I both know, once the event's over, there's a lot more to do. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of talk through everything that comes from an event. Mm-hmm. And you and I have probably worked on the most campaigns together, several campaigns together. I feel like we have a really good process down. What do you think?
Totally agree. Yeah.
All right. So what I love about the process that we do with our campaigns, whether it's looking at a trade show, an event, a conference, an expo, is that we have steps in place. And we're always thinking ahead in terms of strategy when it comes to event marketing and trade shows. So what I'd like to talk about today is some of the tactics we take on, you with the content team, the event team, in order to get the most out of the event possible. So we're going to start today with pre-event surveys and explain why we use them. Now, I see them as a twofold, and you'll probably come at it from a content standpoint. But for me, I like using that pre-event survey to gather information about the audience. I want to ask them questions about, the sessions that they're going to come see today. That, to me, I can feed those answers to a speaker, and they can be better prepared for the audience that's in front of them. Now, there's more to it, though, right?
I totally agree. So I think pre-event surveys are really important because they allow you to better understand where your audience is coming from and essentially provide them with a more catered experience. So, for example, let's say your audience is very new to the topic. They might find high-level information really overwhelming. And on the flip side, if you've got a very advanced audience, they might get bored with basic information. So finding out who they are and where they're coming from, what they're looking for is really important, and event surveys can really help with that. In addition to that, you can actually use those insights that you gather in the event survey to fuel conversations. So if you know who the audience members are or what questions they might have, your team can be prepared. You'll understand what they're curious about, what information they'd like more, and how they prefer to consume that information. So your survey could ask a question of do you prefer email? Would you like a podcast? Those are all great things to help you fuel your future content strategy.
I agree. It's also not about just the pre-event too, but trade shows can use them on the trade show floor and at the booth, right? You can start gathering more information and engage that conversation during the show itself.
Exactly. So anytime you can get more information, that voice of customer information is really valuable. So on the trade show floor, you might ask certain questions and hear, something you didn't expect or a question that you might not have thought of or your sales team might not have heard before. And then you're able to cater website experiences or follow-up emails in a way that speaks to what your audience was asking. So it just provides a little bit more hyper-personalization and the ability to really hear and understand and make your audience feel like you're hearing them.
Right. Okay, but we're not just gathering that information for gathering information's sake. What are we going to do with that content now that we have it?
Right. So I touched on personalized email. So imagine you go to a trade show, you have a great conversation with somebody working at the booth, and then you get a generic message afterwards. That's not a great experience. So having those questions and that information and those insights for your audience can allow you to create more personalized email experiences. You can also develop things like FAQs or thought leadership information, website content, industry pages, all of those things that you might otherwise not have known the answer to if you hadn't asked the questions in the booth or in a pre-event survey. The other thing that you can really do is create that thought leadership content. So That point of view, your SME, your subject matter expert's point of view, is exactly what AI search loves right now. Diving deep into a topic, having FAQs, having subject matter expert quotes and insights and charts and graphs, all of the things that are generated from that voice of customer, from your survey, all really good data points to fuel your content and your unique insights, original takes, and like that expert analysis that is so sought after right now. The other big thing that you can think about is an industry report or a segmented white paper, for example. So you've gathered all this data about your audience, about the industry, even if it's about a particular conference or trade show, and you can deliver persona focused, original data. Original data is something that AI search or AEO loves. They love original perspectives and original insights. And so when you present the data in a meaningful way with insights from the industry, not only does it position your brand as experts and like you know what you're doing, which obviously we all want to have, it also builds trust with your audience, right? They get to meet your experts, they get to hear your insights, and then you can throw a little bit of a sales message in there and get your brand front and center in front of some really great information, really great educational content. So, white papers and industry reports also provide a really great opportunity for you to further your audience's understanding on the industry. So, imagine, if you're a marketing director or you're a sales director, and all of a sudden you understand what other people are doing and how they're feeling and what's their challenges are, it makes you feel less alone in the world. So, the same goes for all of your customers and in any industry, right? They want to know what other brands are doing or how other brands are feeling. What constraints do they have within the marketplace? Are they affected by economic situations, right? So having those insights and sharing what other people are saying really provides value to that core audience as a whole because they can see how they fit in the marketplace, whether they're ahead, whether they need to catch up. So you provide value by just sharing the data with a larger group of people.
And that's actually what we did with Experience Inbound,
Mhm.
right? We did the pre-event survey, we gathered the information, we had those conversations during the show, and now we have this wonderful industry report that's coming out. What I'm told is today. So some people might be getting it later today. Um, and we're going to basically, provide them with all this information that we gathered in a nice industry report for marketing and sales professionals. I know in another trade show campaign we did, we conducted a survey during the show, gathered that information. We didn't get, a lot of conversation, but you do get data and you can still do something, even if it's a small pool. We're going to turn that into a blog recap and take those insights and takeaways and do a really nice recap of the event. So that is something we can also do, correct?
Yeah. So I'm a big advocate of nurturing contacts, especially the contacts you meet at a show. You have a great conversation with somebody and then it's crickets, right? So as a brand, you want to think about how can I continue to nurture these great contacts that I met at the show and providing takeaways, whether it's through a blog or just through a podcast or even just a video on YouTube saying, here are the big 5 things we learned at this trade show. When you're at a trade show as a user or as an attendee, sometimes it's overwhelming. You might have missed something. Being able to look back at a brand you trust and see, like, oh, they said that there are these key concerns within the industry. Oh, I missed that one. Let me dive deeper into it. So, being able to nurture those contacts with a follow up email with insights and expertise positions you as a thought leader, but also it provides value to the user. In addition to that, if you did have a chance to meet those folks, following up with emails periodically, checking in on how they're doing, seeing if they have any more questions after the show, asking if they saw this part of the booth or if they had any further information that they would like to see. It shows that you care. It shows that personal level of communication that everyone is so key to have these days. And it just presents a great opportunity. So always nurture contacts after a trade show. They showed interest, they came to the booth. Think about creative ways that you can speak to them not only about their experience, but about their needs now and potentially in the future.
I love that. I love that. So it's kind of, to me, I think about that time period. We sent them the recap. The show is over. We still want to keep those touch points in communication going. To me, it's the fifth quarter. That's for my Badger fans. that, after the game's over, we still got to see that band come out and delight the audience and field. And that's exactly what you were describing to me. It's that momentum, that drive that's going to keep them going from, the end of one show, touch points in between leading up to the next show. And so this is a great opportunity, I feel, for me to talk about save the date for Experience Inbound 2026. We have the dates in place. It's going to be April 28th here in Milwaukee, and very excited to share it's at a new venue this year at the Brookfield Conference Center. And then April 29th in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. I had to get that plug in.
Oh, of course.
All right. All right. So we talked about, content afterwards, thought leadership content. Is there anything else you want to add about what can come from an event?
I think it just presents a great opportunity for you to hone in on a list of either warm leads or potentially hot leads, and then try to think of ways to keep them curious and engaged. So if you can continue to provide insightful content, insights, thought leadership types of information. Sometimes we even tell our clients, and this, seems obvious, but I feel like we've moved away from it. But how can you tie what you do or what your product or service is to seasonal topics or news jack, something that's happening in the news that you can find a connection to, right? That makes your brand all of a sudden more prominent. It's funny, I was on Instagram and I saw the Savannah Bananas had a player walk up to Taylor Swift's new song. And it was like the day that the album launched. He knew all the words. It like went over like crazy. All the comments were so positive. And that's an example of, finding a niche audience. Maybe Taylor Swift fans aren't necessarily Savannah Banana fans, but all of a sudden there's this connection. And now those two audience groups are coming together. And it was just a brilliant way to get more visibility by newsjacking something that was really exciting that was happening in the world and increasing reach and visibility to a baseball brand. So I thought that was a great example.
That is awesome. I love that. All right. Well, we covered a lot today. So I'm Mary Jo and
Janice Dombrowski,
and we're from Stream Creative. I want to just thank everybody for listening to the Marketing Magnified podcast.
Bye.